Gopi Jana Vallabha Giridharadhari Yasodhanandana Vichachana Ranjana Yasodhanandana Vichachana Ranjana Jamunatira Vanachari Jamunatira Vanachari Jayo Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jayo Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Giridharadhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Giridharadhari Yasodhanandana Vichachana Jamunatira Vanachari Jamunatira Vanachari Jayo Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jayo Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Cham Vishwat Paramahansa Shila Prabhupada Ki Jai Namacharya Shila Hariyas Thakur Ki Jai Prinshita Ho Shukra Prabhu Nityananda Siya Dvaita Prabhupada Shiva Sadhgura Bhaktavrinda Ki Jai Sri Sri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shyama Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Vardhan Ki Jai Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai Mayapur Dham Ki Jai Tulasi Devi Maharani Ki Jai Shri Shri Kodanita Mayapur Sachi Ki Jai Shri Tulsinath Maharaj Ki Jai Shri Giridhari Lal Ki Jai Nishinkha Devi Bhagavan Ki Jai Chanita Gaura Premanandi Hari Bo All glory to assembly devotees, all glory to assembly devotees, all glory to assembly devotees, all glory to Shri Shri Gauranga Gauranga, all glory to We are reading Prabhupada Lilamrita, the last instruction. Prabhupada's last breathing was glorious, not because of any last-minute mystical demonstration, but because Srila Prabhupada remained in perfect Krishna consciousness. Like grandfather Bhishmadev, he remained completely collected and noble and grave, teaching until the end. He was preaching the life comes from life, not from matter, and he was showing that one should preach with every breath he has. The many devotees who crowded the large room bore witness that up to the very end, Srila Prabhupada remained exactly the same. There was nothing subtly incongruous with that he had previously shown and taught them. At the time of his departure, therefore, he was teaching how to die by always depending on Krishna. Krishna Prabhupada passed away was peaceful. During the evening of November 14th, the Kaviraj asked him, "Is there anything you want?" And Srila Prabhupada replied faintly, "Kut icha nahi, I have no desire." His passing away was a perfect situation in Vrindavan with devotees. A few months previously, a young girl, the daughter of one of Srila Prabhupada's disciples, had passed away in Vrindavan, and when Srila Prabhupada had been asked if she went back to Godhead to personally associate with Krishna, he had said, "Yes, anyone who leaves his body in Vrindavan is liberated." Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. We are reading Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 7, Chapter 2, Text 39. Hiranyakashipu, King of the Demons. Ya Ichaya Isha Sri Chati Idam Abhyaya Yaha Eva Rakshati Avalumpate Yaha Tasya Abala Kridanam Ahu Ishitu Characharam Nigraha Sangrahe Prabhu Ya Ichayesha Shishatitam Abayo Ya Ichayesha Srichatitam Abhayo Ya Eva Rakshati Avalumpate Chaya Ya Eva Rakshati Avalumpate Chaya Tasya Bala Krititam Ahur Ishitus Tasya Bala Kritidam Ahur Ishitus Characharan Nigraha Sangrahe Prabhu Characharan Nigraha Sangrahe Prabhu Ya Ichayesha Shri Chatitam Abhayo Ya Eva Rakshati Avalumpate Chaya Tasya Bala Kritidam Mahur Ishitus Characharam Nigraha Sangrahe Prabhu Ichayesha Shritam Chandayo Jabalam Kritisama Vishitu Ishitus Charachara Nigraha Eva Rakshasya Balapate Chaya Sabalam Kritidam Shitu Yaha Who Ichaya by his will without being forced by anyone. Isha the Supreme Controller. Sri Chati creates idam this material world. Abhyaya remaining as he is, not having lost his own existence because of having created so many material manifestations. Yaha who eva indeed Rakshatit maintains, Avalumpate annihilates, Cha also, Yaha who, Tasya of him, Abala of poor women, Kridanam the plain, Ahu they say, Ishitu of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Chara Acharam moving and non-moving, Nigraha in destruction, Sangrahe or in protection, Prabhu fully able. The boy addressed the women, oh with women, only by the will of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is never diminished, is the entire world created, maintained, and again annihilated. This is the verdict of the Vedic knowledge. This material creation consists of the moving and non-moving is exactly like his plaything. Being the Supreme Lord, he is completely competent to destroy and protect. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. In this regard, the queens might argue, if our husbands was protected by the Supreme Personality of Godhead when in the womb, why he has not been given protection now? To this question, the answer is Ya ichaya srishitam abhyayo ya eva rakshati abalam pate chaya. One cannot argue with the activities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Lord is always free, and therefore he can protect and he can also annihilate. He is not our order carrier. Whatever he likes, he will do. Therefore, he is the Supreme Lord. The Lord does not create this material world at anyone's request, and therefore he can annihilate everything merely by his will. That is his supremacy. If one argues, why does he act in this way? The answer is that he can do because he is the Supreme. No one can question his activities. If one argues, what is the purpose of this sinful creation and annihilation? The answer is that to prove the omnipotence, he can do anything, and no one can question him. if he were answerable to us concerning why he does something and why he does not, his supremacy will be curtailed. How do you say curtailed? Ya icha dvesha shishitan chidam avyayo ya eva rakshati avalumpate chaya tasya bala kritidam mahur ishitu characharan nigraha sangrahe prabhu. Translation again. The boy addressed the women, O weak women, only by the will of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is never diminished in the entire world created, maintained, and again annihilated. This is the verdict of Vedic knowledge. This material creation consisting in the moving and non-moving is exactly like his plaything. Being the Supreme Lord, he is completely competent to destroy and protect. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Shiva Sadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So to recap a bit, this king Suyagya left his body in the battlefield, his heart pierced by arrows of the enemy. And the queens could not cope with the loss. They wouldn't even allow the body to be cremated. They were embracing him. They were trying to keep him as long as possible, even though the time for the auspicious time of the cremation was passing by. Still, they will not allow the body to be taken. So seeing that, Lord Yamaraj assumed the form of a boy, and then he started to instruct the queens. And it's very interesting. This is like a story within a story within a story. And still the one who is talking is Hiranyakashipu. And he's addressing the Lord as the supreme controller, like supreme destiny. But he never will say Bhagavan Shri Krishna or all glories to Krishna, something like that. Because he's still a demon. At least in this incarnation. In other incarnations, he's a Vaishnava and a great Vaishnava. But in this incarnation, he's playing the role of a demon. And as such, he cannot address the Lord directly as Shri Krishna, Bhagavan. But Srila Prabhupada pointed out in the purport that Krishna is a supreme controller. Krishna is completely independent. Krishna is the Lord and Master of everything. And why the boy is calling the women weak? Why is he calling them weak? We say same situation with Arjuna. When Arjuna didn't want to fight, Krishna said, what is this weakness of heart? You need to perform. Is that your phone? Can you put it in silent mode, please? Krishna is saying, why you are so weak in your heart that you cannot perform your duty. And you are lamenting for something which is not worth of lamentation. So he's saying exactly the same. You are weak because you are attached to the material body, but the soul, the person, is not longer there. And this is an interesting paradox, how Hiranyakashipu is talking this way, understanding that there is a controller, that there is a supreme, but no addressing him directly. I remember my father used to say, I don't believe in God, but I believe in a supreme controller. So see, that this is one of the definitions of God. So we see many times people are bewildered by understanding that there is a controller, but not understanding who the supreme controller really is, or what are his personal features. One Mate was saying that she was there when her mother passed away. She went in the hospice or somewhere, hospital, don't remember exactly. And her mother passed away while she was there. And then the priest came. You know, many places at least they hire a priest, and when somebody dies, they come and do the last rite or whatever, prayers. So mother passed away, and then priest came into the room and he said, would you like to spend some more time with your mother? And this Mata, she said, no, my mother is already gone. She's not there anymore. And this took him aback, this priest. And he said, yeah, you are right. She's not there anymore. But you see, they understand that she's not there anymore, but still the attachment to the body is there. And they think that, oh, that is the person. That is still the person. Even though everyone say, oh, she's gone, she left, things like that. So this is a situation with practically everyone, even though we may have the theoretical knowledge. When somebody dear to us leave, the attachment remains. And we see this even when Abhimanyu, the son of Arjuna, was killed. Arjuna was also lamenting, and he was also grieved. And he even made a vow to kill the murder of his son. Was Drita, what was it? Ashvatam. Yeah, he vowed to kill Ashvatama. Even though it was a mistake. Yeah? Chayadrata, isn't it? Yeah. Yeah. And actually it was a big mistake because he was compromising the whole war by doing that. Because he promised that he will not kill Jayadratha, he will commit suicide. And that would have been terrible for the outcome of the war, because Arjuna was one of the main warriors. So this attachment for the material body is always there, even though the understanding, the knowledge is clear. Still, when somebody dear to us die, we always grieve and we feel the loss. And we see also when, in the case of the Goswamis, where they were lamenting, when other Goswami will leave, they will lament. But the explanation is that is not because of ignorance of the distinction between the body and the soul, but because they understand that now I cannot serve this Vaishnava anymore. I will not have the association of this Vaishnava anymore. So the understanding is different, even though the knowledge is the same for everyone. The way we perceive the knowledge is different. In 1929, there was a big depression in America. I don't know if you heard about it. And everything, the economy in America practically collapsed. And there were no jobs. It was a very terrible situation. But one company was still open. It was a company who worked with Morse code, which was a type of communication in those days. Now practically nobody used Morse code. So they make an advertisement. They make an advertisement that we are hiring a person. We need to hire, thank you, one person. So there were like 500, 600 people applying for that job. And they were all queuing up outside this factory or whatever, this office. And they gave each person one number. And they were calling them one by one to do the interview. And everyone was in a big anxiety. They only want to hire one person. And there were like 500, 600 applying for it. Behind the office, there was construction work going on. And you could hear the, thank you, you could hear the hammering. And then they were be calling one by one. And then all of a sudden, one of them, he just rushed to the office. And then the person in charge of the office, he came out, he said, okay, now everyone can go home. We find our person. And there was practically a riot. They said, what is this? We had all been queuing up for so long, 500, 600 people, and one just jump out of queue and get hired straight away. What is that? And then this person explained that the one hammering on the back of the building, he was doing a Morse code with his hammer. And the hammer, in the Morse code, he was saying, if you understand this message, go to the office and we will hire you. And he was the only one who understood that. So he made the rush. So the message was there for everyone, but only one person got it, and he was the lucky one. So in the same way, the message of Bhagavad Gita, message of the Srimad Bhagavatam is there for everyone, but not everyone can understand. And that's why we need the words of the Acharya. Can you imagine reading Srimad Bhagavatam or reading Bhagavad Gita without the purpose of Srila Prabhupada? How much we could understand? Very little or practically nothing. So when the Supreme Lord is plain knowledge, he is further described by his devotees for our understanding. And what is interesting about this purport is that actually no one can understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead. No one can understand him. It's very difficult. And his activities can be contradictory, especially by the non-devotees. There was this person who sent a message in Krishna.com. And he said that he started reading the Mahabharata. He was okay with most of it. With Krishna dancing with the gopis, he was fine. Krishna stealing butter, fine. But there were certain things, especially in the Mahabharata, that were confusing him. Like when Drona was killed, when Ashwatthama was killed, he was confused because Krishna interfered in those killings, and they seemed to be not fair. So he was quite confused. And then one Mata, she replied to him, and he said that Krishna can do whatever he wants. Krishna can do whatever he wants. And it's very difficult to understand that. And we see towards the end of a Mahabharata, actually it's the longest part of a Mahabharata, was when Bhishma was about to leave his body. And then he started instructing Maharaj Yudhishthir. And he was saying that even though you are a great devotee of Krishna, even though your kingdom had been taken, by the bad guys, and seems to be that while you were in exile for 13 years, they were having great time. They were enjoying the kingdom, while you, who are the righteous king of this kingdom, were suffering. And even though the Supreme Personality of Godhead was your friend and he was by your side all the time, still you had to undergo so much suffering. So it's very difficult for people to understand that. It's very difficult even for devotees sometimes to understand how Krishna's by your side, why need to suffer so much? Probably you heard maybe Adoksha Prabhu, he mentioned one time in the class, I remember, about the person who wrote this book, Why Bad Things Happen to Good People. He's a Rabbi Kushner, Rabbi Kushner. He wrote Rabbi Kushner. And it's something quite interesting in his life and why he wrote that book. Because he had a 13-year-old son who died of old age. He was 13 years old, but he had a very rare disease that he was becoming old very, very rapidly. So when he was 13, he was like 60 or 65 years old. Because of this disease. So when his son passed away, he was so bewildered. He said, why bad things happen to good people? What my son ever done to deserve this? And after that, he wrote another book, and the title of this book is Who Needs God? And it's understandable that people get confused when reverses happen. If we win 1 million pounds, we understand that God is in our side. He's my friend. He's my well-wisher. I love him. But if we will lose 1 million pounds, then immediately he's our enemy. We hate him. This is human nature because we fail to understand. And this Kushner, he actually started to create a movement, concoct his own philosophy that actually to be a Jewish, you don't need to believe in God. You don't need to really believe in God. You just need to support Israel, and you need to be culturally a Jewish, but you don't need to really believe in God. Of course, this is not accepted by many Orthodox rabbis who still believe in God, but he created very strong movement that is still going on nowadays. And he died actually a few months ago. He died this year, a few months ago, this Kushner rabbi. And he was confused by the activities of the Lord. Why bad things happen to good people? And this is something very common nowadays, that people don't understand the law of karma. The people don't understand why these things happening to us when we are doing something, when we are doing everything right, when we are serving humanity, we are good citizens, and still we need to suffer. But for the devotees, different, because they understand that everything happened for a good reason. In the life of the non-devotee, everything happened according to karma. But in the life of a devotee, everything happened by the will of the Lord. There is a saying that we pray to God to change our circumstances, forgetting that God changed our circumstances to change us. So we may be in a situation where we desire to change this particular situation because it's not what we want. But we forget that God put us in that situation to change us. And the life of the devotee is the life of changing, life where we need to evolve, not a life of restriction only. It's like when you are a kid and you have a kite. I guess you all played with kites. Did you all play with kites when you were a kid? No? Oh my God, you didn't have childhood. And when you see the rope on the kite, is the rope on the kite limiting the kite, is restricting the kite, or is helping the kite? If you decide, okay, let's just cut the rope of the kite, what will happen? The kite will rise a little bit more and then will crash. So these are our connection with Krishna. We think that by being connecting with Krishna, by being connected, by following the rules and regulations of this process, we are limited. But actually, the purpose of these rules, all the things we follow in Krishna consciousness are like this rope, that they are uplifting us, they are helping us to get higher and higher, and they are not actually limiting us. So this is very important for devotees to understand that the hands of Krishna are everywhere, and nothing happened whimsically. It's not like Krishna made a mistake and we are suffering because of this, or something is spilled between the crack and what happened? Krishna made a mistake, and now we need to suffer the consequences of that. No, everything happened by the perfect will of the Lord, and everything that Krishna does is perfect. Everything that Krishna does is perfect. We just need to be tuned, like this person on the construction site, to understand the message of Krishna and to see that everything is for our benefit, and everything that the acharyas did, like Srila Prabhupada, is for our benefit. All the books he translates, all the programs he creates, everything is for our spiritual benefit. And we should appreciate these things, because only by this appreciation we can understand how Krishna is working in our life, and then we can become perfect in the end of this life. Are there any questions, comments? Panchatar.
You're seeing how for a non-devotee, from the law of karma, but for a devotee, Krishna being so. I'm wondering, what is the actual differentiation between a devotee and a non-devotee? When does Krishna feel the person involved? When is it then criminal issues of Krishna and the person involved?
Mm-hmm. When we start to practice Krishna consciousness, when we start, and then karma is still going on. Karma is still going on. Srila Prabhupada gave the example that when you unplug the fan is still moving, but gradually stop moving until it stop completely. So in the beginning, there is a mixture of karma and Krishna's arrangement. Because Krishna knows everything, Krishna will arrange your karma in such a way that help you spiritually. And we have seen many times someone get kicked out from a job, and it was possibly his karma to get kicked out from a job. But then he said, okay, now I have more time. Maybe I can go to the temple and do service. I have more time. So Krishna arranged this karma that we need to suffer anyway in such a way that we can get a spiritual benefit out of it. And then the more we surrender to Krishna, the more this karma is diminishing and more Krishna is taking control of our life. And when somebody is completely surrendered to Krishna, and then only Krishna is working, and there is no more karma. But Krishna will help us in every activity, but the free will is also still there. It will always be there. If we will jump out of the window, most probably Krishna will not be holding us on the way down, unless you are Prahlad Maharaj. So free will still be there, but when somebody is completely surrendered to Krishna, then there is no more karma, and there is a minimal karma. There is a very minimal karma. Is that okay?
He didn't think he believed that there wasn't power to us, and power was the Krishna. So we think of Brahma, and then we could see Brahma.
Well, he didn't say it. He never said that he believed in Brahma either. He just believed in a supreme controller. We can say like more like impersonal understanding, like most people have, that there is a supreme controller, but they don't know who that supreme controller is. And he definitely didn't want to accept that Krishna is the supreme controller, because he was his enemy. And he worshipped Lord Brahma, and that's why he got where he got the power from. So he understands that Brahma had the superior power, but whether he accepts Brahma is that supreme controller he mentioned here, we don't know. But it's just sounds like an impersonal understanding, that there is just a controller, but we don't know who that controller is. There is no specification about to whom he is referring to that we can say for sure. But the activities of Krishna are always mysterious. It's very do you have another question?
Just one sort of reflection. Immediately, you're back in the big company or business, and there's someone there who wants to be and we sort of get the minister and I get the person for that company. They also get to see that there is some aspect of control, etc. Is there certain things you
You have to, You have to be very blinded by your desire to actually have that control, to stop you from seeing the person who's actually in control, perhaps.
Was that the question? No, just a comment. Yeah, yeah. Everyone more or less understand that there is a controller. Everyone understand this. Even the atheists, they understand that there is some superior controller. Only when we come to Krishna consciousness, we can fully understand who is that controller is. And it becomes more and more personal. No other philosophy, no other group understands so deeply who God is like Krishna consciousness. That God is the name, form, activities. We know which are these activities. We know the names. Everyone got a general idea, but no one is so has that deep knowledge, deep understanding like Krishna conscious person. We are the only ones. Everyone is saying this, isn't it? We are the only ones. We're the only ones who got the truth.
He's not listening to his own advice. Because he's mentioning personality of God. It's not impersonal. And then he's saying, he's completely competent to destroy. So it just makes you wonder. You could think you're a devotee because you accept the Krishna as God, but then it may be that you accept it the same way as Hiranyakashipu does.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, we see all these demons, they often give advice, but they themselves don't follow these advices. We see many times on the pages of the Srimad Bhagavatam, even Kamsa, when he instructs, he gave perfect advice, but they themselves don't follow those advices. It's just they got empirical knowledge. They got because everyone previously were born and they were raised reading the Vedic scriptures. It was something very common. In every corner there were recitation of Vedic scriptures. So everybody knew the Vedic scripture. Everybody knew the conclusions. But only a few people were, only Vaishnavas were practicing, or other spiritual people were practicing. Okay, shall we finish here? Okay, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.